Welcome back to another episode of New England Horror Files podcast. And tonight we're going to be talking about one of New England's most prolific and mysterious haunted houses. And that house, of course, is the Sylvester Knowlton Pierce House, located in Gardner, Massachusetts. So, Mary, you were telling me you just went over there. What are your thoughts? What was that like?
Well, I had reason to be in Gardner. I've been to Gardner many, many times in my life, and I'm like, I need. Let me find something creepy to just go check out and swing by real quick, right? Like,
Yeah,
so I Google creepy thing or creepy places in Gardner, Mass, and this is the first thing that pops up, and I'm just like, what? There's a freaking the most haunted house in the planet is in Gardner, and I had no idea, right? So I'm like, oh, cool shit, whatever. Like I researched it just a little bit, and finally, the next day, I stopped by. So it's this 3.5 story or 2.5 story. I'm not entirely sure of the stories exactly. 2.5 story. It's this just out of the landscape. This it looks like everyone refers to it as like an Adams Family style house because it's like painted dark gray with like black
yeah, it really does.
shutters.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
totally has
and
that
it
look.
doesn't. It's like it doesn't fit. Like it totally stands out from the rest of the area. So this is actually a part of Gardner I've never been to. So it's a fairly busy street, but I'm like, all right, cool. Hey, look at this place. Oh, look, it's for sale. So I get out and I'm like, all right, let me just real quick. I'll take some quick video of it and just whatever. Like I can't go in. It doesn't appear to be open. I don't know if they're doing tours yet. Like I haven't gotten that far. So I take out the video. I sit there. I sat there for a few, like just looking at it because it has such a presence that I mean, it's like this black house, it's just sitting in the middle of Gardner, like there on the corner. So I finally get out. I get across the street, and also there was a lot of traffic. But so I'm like, okay. I just start walking around the house, and I'm just taking whatever video I can from the street, and I'm sharing, whatever quick history I know about it, and some of the lore about the hauntings and who's died here, etc. So I go to the one side. I kind of like am focused on a corner. I go all the way to the right, and then I'm going to come back to the left. And as I pass the no, not the Union Street, the Broadway door. It's got two different doors on it. So as I pass the door with the main steps, I hear what sounds like the door rattling, and I'm like, is that the? And in the moment, I was like, oh, it's got to be the wind. It has to be the wind, but it sounds like somebody's like grabbing the door and just shaking it, like the screen door, not the inside door. Yeah, and I'm like, all right, it's got to be the wind, right? It's breezy that day, but it wasn't like it was hurricane force winds. But this really sounded like and I don't think my freaking iPhone picked up on it from 20 feet away, but I did. I could definitely hear it. It took me a minute to figure out what it was, and I realized it was the door, the outside, and maybe like a screen door or something to that effect. I was like, "Holy shit, is that?" And I kind of was like, "All right, well, whatever. It must be the wind," and I blew it off. Later on, and I get out of there without incident. And as I'm editing that video later, I'm like, there's no way that was the freaking wind. Are you kidding me? I'm like, what the fuck? So I start from there. It just kind of struck me. And it was in the back of my head. So I'm like, I start doing research about it. And I found the audiobook of The Bones in the Basement. It's called Surviving the S.K. Pierce House. Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion or something like to that effect. But it's called
Right.
Bones in the Basement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty telling title there. So
Yeah, right. Yeah,
kudos
that's why I
to
was like, I gotta find this. So I got it with a free subscription, like a 3 month subscription to Audible, like the free trial. So like I didn't read this, I listened to it. So like I really and I did it while I was driving. So like I have no notes. So I hope that I can like recount this as accurately as possible. And then once I finished listening to the book, I was so enthralled. I was like, I need to know more about this. This is nuts. Like this house is just like this enigma of like what the fuck? You know, like, so I ended up watching a one of the tours. Somebody recorded it and they went through the whole tour where the woman Marion goes through the whole house and she just tells about all the things that have happened, like, you know, the tour. And then these people did ghost hunting, and you know, that's, I don't know, YouTube ghost hunting is, I can kind of, it's entertaining sometimes, but I can also take it or leave it. You know, like, I don't know. I that's
Specifically on YouTube.
Well, specifically like ghost hunting that like is, I don't know, recorded, and I don't know though, like, that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I
No,
did
I've definitely no.
watch,
I know what you're saying. I've seen like definitely some that are like obviously hyped up, and it's just like we're doing this,
yeah.
make a
Oh, there
video,
was some,
which
yeah, there was
which is
some
like
interesting.
which is it seems so odd to me because it's just like, oh, when I watch YouTube, I'm like, oh, I want to. If I looked up like ghost hunting videos, I'm like, I want to see something cool. You know what I mean? And then it's like the most staged thing, which is just
Mm-hmm.
somehow more popular than something that would just be like an experience that maybe
Hmm.
you see something, but it has to be over dramatized. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But
No, I know what you mean. And
story
I
about
actually, that's a thing that comes up in this story about this house is the whole, I don't know, business of ghost hunting. It's definitely a factor. It's definitely a character. So, let's see this house. It was built. Where are we? We got a little description from that book. If you want to start us
yeah,
off with that.
yeah. So this is from The Bones in the Basement. The three-story Victorian mansion sat vacant for 2 full years, looking every bit the haunted house. People drove past slowly, staring up the empty windows, wondering if the rumors were true. The house was supposed to be haunted. The Victorian was built in 1875 by Sylvester Knowlton Pierce, a wealthy furniture magnate in the town of Gardner, Massachusetts. The Second Empire Victorian mansion was considered to be a modern marvel of its time. It had two cisterns that once collected rainwater from the slate roof, providing the occupants with running water, something unheard of in the late 1880s. The house was outfitted with gas lighting, speaking tubes and electric bells for communication throughout the house, and even boasted a dumbwaiter which reached 3 floors. The hand-carved moldings and cornices spoke volumes at the time when houses were built carefully and lovingly. It had 26 rooms, with 4 bathrooms, and a tower with a circular staircase leading to a widow's walk, providing sweeping views of South Garden. The massive doors were 9 feet tall, constructed of solid black walnut, and weighed well over 500 pounds apiece.
Mm-hmm.
Every inch of woodwork was elaborately carved, signifying the status of wealth and opportunity. No detail was overlooked. No cost was too great. The house was simply a masterpiece.
Right. Yeah. So this house is really like, if you look on old like realtor.com listings, you can see it with the interior pictures, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just amazing. You know, it's not only is it like this enormous like 10-bedroom house, and it's, you know, got all the things and trappings and the original woodwork and, you know, whatever. I mean, it's simply just fantastic. Like, it's by itself, you know, just to look at the pictures, I'd love to. I mean, honestly, it sounds a little scary, but I think I would take a tour if they were available. Um, right now, I'm not sure what the status is on the tours. I'd like to find out, but I don't actually know. I think they might still be doing them, but I don't know. Um, so back in the late 1800s, there's this Sylvester Pierce. He's a um, very wealthy furniture guy. He owns a furniture factory right across the street from the house. He, makes it. He started off working in this factory when he was like 14, and got up to the point where I think when he was in his 20s, he bought it, and so he became very wealthy off it. He did very well in this business, and he decided that he needed a house to fit his stature. And it's reported that he built this house for his wife, his first wife. Um, where do we go? Susan Elvira Jackson Pierce is her name. Um, interestingly, I just found out looking through some Google genealogy that Sylvester and Susan were actually like cousins.
Oh
I
dear.
can't yeah, I can't like quite put together how like it's weird like they share a grandfather, I think. Something to that effect. Like don't quote me on that, but like I'd have to sit down and like write it out. But anyway, that
Things
was
were
I
different.
guess.
Things were different.
Yeah,
Those.
yeah, they were. I
I guess. I have no
I
idea.
guess I can't. I don't know. I could never wrap my mind around that. First cousins getting married. But here we are. So yeah. So there was the first mistake. No, anyway. So it took, I guess, over 100 men, like 2 years to build the house. I mean, no expense was spared. It was just magnificent. So as far as like the actual like history of the house, um, within like very shortly after moving in, Susan actually dies. Apparently, she contracted some sort of like a bacterial infection, like a flesh-eating bacteria sort of thing, and she passes on. So she died in the house. So that was kind of like the first, like the first of the first deaths in the house. So as we go on, they have children. Susan and bear with me. Susan and Sylvester have Frank Jackson Pierce, and then Sylvester remarries Ellen Louisa Nellie Pierce, who was 30 years his junior, and they proceed to have Stuart, Stuart and Edward. I do believe that they had a daughter who died in the house also, and I think it might have been. Now, again, I'm saying all of this from memory, from the book, and from hearing the tour because I did this all while I was driving, so I'm doing all of this from memory. But um, I do believe he had a young daughter who died in the house also, potentially from the same flesh eating thing, but I could be wrong about that. So,
Fuck.
sorry, it's been a busy week. Yeah, so, and he also died in 1888, January 1888, a few years after this house was finished. Like, so he didn't even get that much time in the house, like, what is
Right.
that, 10
That's
years? Yeah. Um, but I guess he was very proper and, very, one of those guys. So it ends up where he leaves everything to his second wife, Nellie. And I guess there's a lot of bitter disputes over, like, the oldest son, Frank, ends up taking her to court because I guess he thought he should have gotten everything as the oldest son and, like, tries to sue her for the house and the business, but he ends up losing. And there was, there was a lot of that. During the Depression, the house became an inn. I guess the furniture business wasn't doing so great um, during the Depression, so they had to turn it to an inn, and then it changed. Um, the son Edward, the youngest son, took it over for a time, and I think he had it as a boarding house, but it wasn't. Um, it kind of fell into like a CD period, like it wasn't like it was it was a boarding house, so like there was all sorts of people in and out, and like that went until probably the 60s, and during the 60s was the first times it actually changed hands out of the Pierce family, and then I don't know, continued on to be a boarding house, but then it eventually fell into kind of just eventually, as all old houses do, fell into, I don't want to say disrepair, but just like you know it wasn't on the up. So that brings us to where like Bones in the Basement is, and that's um, Edwin and Lillian buy it in 2008, and they moved from Dorchester, Massachusetts, over to this house, and it was kind of like their their dream house. They found it for, I mean, they bought it for so cheap. I think they bought it for like 100 some odd thousand, like maybe like 125. If you look at the records, you'll see. Um, they got it very cheap. And but it's like this humongous, Victorian house. It was hard to take care of.
Right.
It didn't have any heat. It needed like the roof repaired. Like it just needed all these things. And on top of it with the taxes and just everything, it was a lot. And they were there until 2015, but they only lived in the house for 2 years. I'm trying to look at when they actually bought it. Price change 2008, sold in 2000. Yeah, 180,000. It looks like they bought it for in 2008. They moved in, I believe, in 2009, and then they were out of there, I think, by 2011. So their experiences in this house are what's in Bones in the Basement. I guess there had been some things before that, some crazy experiences with the previous owners, but nothing crazy until they moved in. And they documented a lot of things, and they, obviously this book was written about it. And so what we know is, like, as far as people who have actually died in the house, we've had, like we've said, almost immediately we had Susan Pierce dying in the house, and then their daughter died. In the 60s, we know for sure that a man named Eno Sari burned to death in in one of the rooms. He was a boarder. In the 60s, 1965, I believe it was. And that's a true story, and it's interesting because let me see if I can find a quick story about him specifically. Who haunts the history of the Pierce Mansion? Yeah, so also it's interesting to note that this mansion measures like 6,666 square feet.
What?
Yeah, which I don't like that. It's kind of like I avoid the 3 6s. I really just do.
Well,
So
of course, but no.
just avoid that.
The fact that you've told me that, I'm wondering, like, what was the intention behind, like, the architecture of it? Was that something that was intentional? I mean, was that like a giant coincidence?
Right? I'm not sure. I
Don't
don't.
make them like they used to. No, they never made them like this.
Right.
This time in the form of a giant slore.
Yeah.
I'm quoting Ghostbusters. If
Mm-hmm.
you know
Giant floor. I can just
you
see
don't
his crypt.
appreciate that, get off my
I,
fucking podcast. I'm just kidding.
there's the door, pal. I appreciate that. All right.
Oh well, thank you. I didn't mean to be harsh. I just good stuff. It's good stuff. It's very quotable. It's a very familiar movie to me.
Oh, it's always quotable.
Yeah, for sure. So, anyways, that's what that
Right.
random rant was.
So, Eno Sari was a World War II veteran. He lived in the boarding house in the 60s. Apparently, he was laying in bed when his mattress caught fire, burning him alive. The rest of the room was relatively unscathed, leading some to conclude that the only explanation for the strange cause of death was spontaneous combustion. So, I don't think he actually spontaneously combusted it. He apparently was a heavy drinker and a smoker, and worked a job, and I'm not sure what job, that had him. It probably had some sort of expectorant on him, like he was a mechanic or some shit. You know what I mean? Like he had, you know, whatever things mechanics get all over themselves. So he, came home, got wasted, and like fell asleep with a cigarette in his hand, and caught himself on fire, something to that effect. But it is speculated that he did spontaneously combust and just died. So that actually happened. Like a guy actually did burn in the house. There's some speculation about,
And
um,
he just caught fire.
yeah,
That's the
allegedly.
official account. And what year was this again?
I believe it was 1965.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't even like what we had.
No, this wasn't even. Yeah, so most of this, it's
Got some
so here's the thing.
technology, somewhat modern era. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. I guess there's. All right, so you see these stories, and if you like look into the tour or read the book, or you really do any kind of research into this house at all, you'll see that there's kind of a mishmash of people that appear to be haunting the house. Um, some say that Pierce himself haunts the house. One or both of his wives haunt the house. The man who burned haunt the house. That there's a child or two that haunts the place. There's a very angry woman, and what's interesting is I I think it was one of the psychics or one of the mediums who came in the book talks about there's a woman who wants everybody out of the house, everybody out. And it's interesting because I felt that when I heard the door.
Right.
It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe what energy feels like, but like that's what I felt in the moment. And I hadn't even heard like listened to the book yet. And when I heard this in the book, I was like, oh no shit, huh? Interesting. Like it just struck me as interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So and then there's apparently a few other here's and there's, but basically this husband and wife, they buy the house. It's their dream home. They're like, oh my god, I love the place. The wife is like in love with it. She's going out there every weekend, all winter, bringing stuff over, getting it ready, doing whatever. They move in that spring. Um, but I guess it started before they even moved in. I guess like the husband had a dream, and this is a thing. It's actually a theme that appears to be with the house is dreaming.
All right.
Um, and there's so much like I was so it's hard to know like where to start or where to like really focus because there's so much to talk about. But they move in and they almost instantly just start having things happen. Like, the dog, of course there's the dogs. The dogs are growling at things they can't see, and they're hearing
Mm.
footsteps and they're seeing shadows, and just like instantly it starts happening. And so the wife tends to the husband is scared to death. He's initially like, holy shit, like what the hell is this? The wife is like, no, you know what, like I'm not scared, you can't rattle me, whatever. So they kind of go through this thing of like, oh, we moved into a haunted house, which which is interesting because some of the things they said, or like the way that they described it, I can understand, right? Like my house is not nearly as haunted as this fucking place. Like not even in my house, I consider my house to be pretty fucking haunted, but like not like this. But it's interesting to see like the way the feelings and the confusion or like the what was that is still the same. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And you're still like questioning your damn sanity. Like, did I just see that? Like, did I hear that?
Okay. Yeah.
It's still the same. Like, he describes a situation where he would hear this singing. And he describes it as like the most beautiful singing. Like he he refers to it as a chanting, but says it sounds like singing. So I had actually had trouble like trying to like uh audio visualize that if I what I mean, like visualize what that sounds like. But and then the seeing things and like, did I hear that? Or like where there's a noise, like we this was funny because we often have a at my house, I will often hear things like a crash downstairs, like something fell over,
Oh
right?
god.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? So every single time I have to get up and go look, right? Because if I'm upstairs and this happened downstairs, I have to go look, make sure nobody's breaking in, make sure nobody's hurt, like whatever. But I can't ever just leave it. So every time I get pissed off because I'm like, if I get up and there's nothing, 90% of the time it's nothing, right? Like So they describe, situations of like knocking at the door and footsteps and things, and they get out there and it's nothing, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I get it. But this house definitely seems like there's definitely more going on here. Longer, maybe longer term things happening, and I don't know. What ended up happening with this place is, well, wait, let me get to that in a second. So I guess part of the Lillian had a dream, or like I forget if it was a dream or like a trance kind of situation, because there seems to be some like, I don't know if I want to call it possession, but kind of. There seems to be a little bit of that in this house and in their story. But she had this dream trance sort of situation where she was told to go dig in the basement. So she did, and she found a freaking pelvic bone in the basement. They have a kiln, like a brick kiln, I guess, where they burned all the stuff. And she's digging around in there and comes up with a damn pelvic bone. And so like they bring it, they're like, what the fuck? They bring it to the doctor. Doctor's like, I think it's human. So they finally hand it over to the police and haven't heard a word since. Like, I guess the police came in and they did a whole bunch of investigating. But there we go again, an unexplained noise downstairs that I don't know what it was. They do investigating, but they didn't hear anything since. And they haven't seen the bone since. So I guess fast forward to after. This is something I learned on the tour, from the tour, that after they were putting in French drains in the basement or something, and when they were digging, they found, I believe it was a leg bone in the same area. So what the hell's going on in this basement, or what happened in this basement? That there doesn't seem to be any record of a death. Officially. So what? And I guess somebody said that it was the pelvis of a 16-year-old girl. I think that's Marion, the tour guide, said that. And Marion was a friend with Lillian's, the previous owner.
This sounds like that movie. What was that Kevin Bacon movie?
Ooh, Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes. Yes.
Oh, Stir of Echoes, dude. Legit, one of the scariest movies.
It has some moments. Yeah, that's a good.
Legit. Stop talking about Stir of Echoes. I can't do Stir of Echoes because the scene where the kid uses the scary voice, I can't handle that scene. Oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. You know the scene I'm talking about, like the boy is not here now, or some shit. Like stop it. Oh my god, I can't. Ooh. See, that's one of those movies that it got me definitely several times. That's a good. Stir of Echoes is good. Yeah, kind of like Stir of Echoes, I guess. So
similar, but yeah, like okay. So she was told. What? All right, she was told to, but who? Like who told her? What was?
I think she had a dream.
She had a dream. Okay.
A dream to go look in the basement or whatever.
Right.
I think that, yeah.
And she dug and she found something. There was no record of. There was no record of this body.
Yeah.
Being related to any missing persons or like.
Right.
Okay.
Now it's interesting. It's interesting to note. Here's another interesting note. Ever since, so like, I like to sleep, right? I just want to fucking sleep. I'm at the point where I've lost so much sleep in my life that I don't want anything else but sleep at night. So like, I don't like messing around. Like, I don't want to have interruptions or phone calls or dreams. I don't care. I don't want any of it. I just want to sleep. Ever since I went to this fucking house, I have had fucking dreams and nightmares every fucking night since.
Really?
Yep.
See, this is why I don't mess with certain energies, especially if it's anything that could be even remotely demonic. and I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what's in here or not.
I'm not. I mean, yeah, I don't know, and I didn't know anything about like almost anything about the house. Like, I had a very brief like, I just read the cliff notes real quick, and I was like, oh, cool house, like, and I don't play with any of that. Like, I don't. How do I say this? Like, I try to be a very conscious explorer, right? I try to be. I have a very strong foundation in God, and my faith in God is very strong. And
Yep.
my faith that God protects me is, I mean, it's unbreakable, right? So like
Yeah. No, I get
that's
it.
that,
Yes, I'm
like,
coming from the same
yeah, right, yeah.
same
So
group. So.
I I as far as like being so, but there's also we went to as an aside, we went and looked at this colonial whatever a local colonial house for sale. This house was amazing, right? It's for sale. It was perfect. I mean, it was gorgeous. I mean, it's such a cool house, and I love. We both really have. Me and my husband have a very, deep, appreciation for colonial architecture, right? Just I don't know what it is. I went to this house and we walked around and like we walked in the yard and we walked through it and we saw it. We were looking at it. And for like I don't even know, two nights in a row, I had these dreams about this woman. Like this, obviously the woman who I finally came to understand was haunting that house.
Hmm.
Like, who was there? There's no other explanation for it. So it's like,
Mm.
even in that sense, like I wasn't even going to, we were just going to, look at to buy it. Like we weren't, this wasn't even about ghost hunting. Like, so like, I feel like I have a certain, like, I don't know, I have a ear or like I don't know what else to call it for this kind of energy, like hauntings or other, just otherworldly stuff. Like, I'm not sure, like it's just a different, I kind of feel like my brain is kind of like, I don't know how to describe this without sounding like a psycho, but like I seriously, like, I'm like a mini like Mothman. Like, I just can see different shades of the world. I don't know. I've always kind of been like this, and I don't necessarily ask for it. I'm not like welcoming it. Like, it's not
Hmm.
like that. But I do see it, and it does kind of, you know what it is? It's almost like a my I feel like I have like one of those bubble fish tanks. Does that make sense? And it kind of like, I'm able to see those fish, meaning the ghosts, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I'm not describing this well, but um, I've always been able to kind of feel other things. And so when I go to places like the damn Sylvester fucking whatever house, like shit always happens. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like, and I'm not necessarily asking for it. I did ask for it one time, and that was in Gettysburg, and I've never done it. I have not done it since
Hmm.
because that fucking
Because
happened.
that was some real shit.
No, like our Gettysburg experience again. I reference it all the time, and one day I'll tell the story. It's just too much of a story to bootleg. I have to tell the whole thing. But it was such a phenomenal experience in like a phenomenally haunted place, and at the same time we were looking for it. We were being kind of, I don't want to say shitty, but we were being a little immature about it. We were being silly. We weren't being reverent, like, so when I go to a place, when I went to this house and just walked around the outside, I was kind of like, well, what does it feel like here? And that's what I'm looking for. Well, what does it feel like? And sometimes I feel those things without I mean, I guess that is inviting it, but I don't let it in. I just, what does it feel like? Does that make sense?
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But unfortunately, sometimes, now, there's also, it's possible that the explanation for the dreams and nightmares they have another uh, explanation. Very
Hmm.
possible. I just haven't totally figured it out what it is. because another thing happened that day too that I don't know if that's the cause. So um, I guess it remains to be seen. I thought I was drinking too much caffeine, but that's not the case because I'm not really. I don't drink coffee anymore. So um, that was all that iced tea. But anyway, so it's just I found it interesting that the concept of dreams is actually discussed specifically relating to this house with other people, right? So I found that odd. So moving on, I mean these hauntings continue with this this husband and wife, and the hauntings of a little boy, and kids in the house, and darker spirits and darker shadows, and some angry and some more loving spirits, or like apparently there's a the spirit of a what's it called, the nanny, one of the nannies for, I'm not entirely sure who this woman nannied. It might have been um the second generation Pierce children. I'm not entirely sure. But she apparently haunts the mansion, and then there's just a spattering of others. So like I'm not incredibly concerned with who they are like specifically, because you can hear that on any episode of anything that talks about this mansion. Um, the things I found interesting in the book were they eventually started calling in ghost hunters and mediums and psychics and whatever, to kind of suss out what was going on. I will say the one thing that they mentioned in the tour that really, and I'm not sure I understand what period of time they're talking about, and I could probably get more information if I actually took the tour, but apparently there was a large amount of sexual assault that happened in this house.
Okay.
Like, um, there's a room in there that psychics, I guess, have referred to as the RAPE room.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I guess it's a situation of like rich guy getting girls for his buddies sort of stuff.
Okay. So all right, this is according to the mediums or psychics
Yeah, I guess this is psychics, and
this is what they're quote unquote.
yeah,
Okay.
apparently, yeah, in this one particular room. And I guess now this is from the tour where they say that one of them was a younger, maybe like a teenager who got pregnant and disappeared. So is she the bone in the basement? We don't know. So that apparently there was also a woman strangled in one of the rooms. But this is like not, it's another thing that isn't, what's the word? Oh my god. What is the word? Substantiated. Jeez. Proven. Whatever. There's no record of it. So again, that's a thing we're not sure of. But there does seem to be at some point a situation like that where there was some things like that going on. So like that'll haunt a house.
Yeah, I mean that sort of energy, especially long term, sustained, like
Hmm.
something that happened multiple times. that's
Right.
that's gonna yeah, that's trauma. That's traumatizing. That's trauma
Yeah.
that stays there.
Right. Well,
And
that's
that
what I think. I think that haunts my house is more trauma than death. I know
mm,
people died here. I believe the woman. Did I tell you I found her obituary?
no.
I didn't tell you that. We'll talk about that another time. But I found the obituary of the woman who used to live here, who I believe haunts the house. Um, but I actually believe that it was some sort of abuse that happened in my house that haunts it. I don't think it's I don't necessarily think it's death, like the
Hmm.
death of somebody, because people die. Like that happens. It's not.
It's not necessarily something that stays, yeah. Like,
No.
and honestly, like in a home is one of the most common places that people die. You
Right.
know,
Exactly. Yeah.
people want to be in their homes as and when they reach that part of their life. So
Right.
it's common for someone to die in a house. It's not anything crazy, but
Right. Right.
someone to
But
try
when
die
it's
tragically, or someone, some, yeah, I think you're right. Some sort of sustained abuse, some sort of like, just horrific, thing, event, or chain of events, or multiple events would be, you know,
right.
more than likely to cause that as well.
I also feel like hauntings can be like so like they talk about Maddie the nanny and interestingly in another Gettysburg experience that I had.
Yet
This is
another.
just another one. This was actually we went down there for like the day COVID started. Like the day like we actually got kicked out of our we had to go down there for 2 nights and we had 2 nights at one of the Pennsylvania State Park cabins. And if you don't know about the Pennsylvania State Park cabins, like they're cheap and awesome. Like, oh my God. Anyway, but they're like, sorry, you guys have to leave because of COVID. We'll refund you your money. I'm like, what? So we ended up being able to get a room at the Farnsworth house in Gettysburg, like in Gettysburg. The Farnsworth house is like apparently so haunted that kids can't stay there. So whatever. So we get there and everything's fine. I mean, it's definitely like a kind of creepy old house. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a not COVID, but I had like a sinus infection that was just like I had the worst postnasal drip, and I was up all night, like with that stupid tickle cough. Like it sucked. Like it sucked. And at one point, I wake up, and all of a sudden, like I felt this cold presence. I don't. It got cold right next to me, and I felt like washed over and just like this, like caring, nurturing, like I don't know, like this love. Like it's hard to describe it, but just this very nurturing sort of feeling, right? So I'm like, okay, and I end up falling asleep. Great, thanks, thanks, nurture ghost. Like whatever. I didn't. It wasn't a crazy experience, but like that's what it was. And come to find out, I guess there's this very maternal nanny sort of presence that haunts the Farnsworth house. I was like, no shit, like that's crazy cool. So I think sometimes, like in these cases, there's also people just sometimes get stuck, or like their energy just gets stuck. Like if there's this thing you just are attached to, like let's say you are a nanny in a house and you're just so attached to it, or that's your life, or you're just stuck there, like you also can get stuck there that way too. I don't think hauntings are always tragedy. Do you know what I mean? I think it's stuck energy, and that can go either way. I think it tends to be more like energy gets stuck more when it's like unresolved, unprocessed, whatever. But I think it can also be like in the case of the nanny in Gettysburg, or the nanny in the Pierce Mansion. Maybe that's it too. Just a thought. So moving on, they start. I guess they start getting people in there, like they do some tours, they do some psychics, they do all the things, the ghost hunters, so on and so forth. And actually, I feel like when they started doing that, it actually made shit worse in a way.
So
Hmm.
yeah, all right. So tours, I'd imagine that would what happened? What happened then?
Well, I guess like just to kind of paraphrase, there were some people who snuck in Ouija boards. There was,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there was like some guy who came in with oh god, what did he have? Was it an axe, or like I forget what he had, but he was damaging like the woodwork, like just bizarre shit like that, or like things would people would like rifle through their things while like ghost hunting, or like just all sorts of crazy shit like that you wouldn't expect. Like if I was gonna go ghost hunt in someone's house, like I wouldn't rifle through their damn drawers. Like what is then I guess some guy was like trying to walk out with artifacts or something, like, oh, I was just gonna borrow these. Like, no.
The
You
house is
know,
already
like,
haunted. Stop fucking around.
I know, right? Like, what the fuck? So I guess
Get it
like it's
together.
like, what the fuck? I don't even like shit like that, and like damage and things going missing, and like stuff like that. Like it's just the fuck. So I think like and sometimes their story got improperly portrayed, and things like that too. Like it was just a lot of stress, but like in some cases they really needed the money. Like there was a lot of different reasons why they did these things, but sometimes it seems like it would stir things up so that the house was disturbed by it. Like I guess like even down to things like they say SK Pierce might still haunt the place, and that he doesn't like dogs in the house. The fact that they had dogs was very upsetting to him. Like things like
Right.
that. Like, and I guess when they sold it, so they ended up moving out because finally 2 years later they moved out because there was a situation where like Lillian kind of got possessed. Like she got into this really funky state and kind of like just wasn't right, wasn't herself. She was kind of in like a vegetative sleep almost for like 3 days, and so was he. Like it's very hard to describe the situation, but ultimately that was their last straw. um because like she was getting sapped of her energy. They were, he was having dreams about, or visions of, a woman floating, and like she was feeling the urge to jump out the window. Like it was crazy. And as soon as she got out of the house, she started to feel better. And that was kind of their last indicator of like, all right, that's enough of this. Like we're not doing this anymore, we can't do this. What It's already hard enough to live in this damn house without heat, but it's haunted. But on top of it being haunted, we're like, you know Lillian's gonna get like spiritually attacked, or not spiritually, but like
Yeah.
like ghost.
Well, yeah.
I
No.
don't. Yeah. So finally, that was the end of it, and they left, and they were able to stay with her sister, and it was they had an out, and so they moved on, and like life went well. And like as once they moved out of the house, it was hard to part with. And it was funny because they said it felt like the house seemed sad that they were leaving, but at the same time, once the new owners in 2015 moved in, they completely renovated it. And when they renovated it, they said it seemed like the activity died down because the house was getting worked on. Like it was actually getting, like, Edwin and Lillian, it's not like they didn't keep it up, but like they couldn't afford all of the things like that it really needed. It
Mm-hmm.
was just too much. Like, but the next people, I guess, were able to do whatever they did. Like I guess they got everything up and up, and anything that needed fixing, they did it. Maybe they put in heat. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure of all the things they painted it. So it's almost like because the house was getting taken care of in that way, it kind of settled down, which is interesting. Which is an interesting thing. Still has it's definitely still haunted, but I guess the main issues kind of simmered down a little bit. So it's but in the over the years, like they moved out in 2011 and they owned it until 2015. And so they would still do. They had a caretaker there and a person who did like handled all the tours, and they still offered tours at that time. They just weren't living there. Um, but in that process of bringing in all these people, it kind of stirred up some extra stuff. You know what I mean? Like, kind of seemed
Mm.
to stir up, like, invite other
Yeah.
spirits in,
Who
other.
knows what other people brought into it?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, because when these, I don't know, and a lot of they say that like a lot of the ghosts in the house are they've been there for a long time, and they're strong. They say, and um because they don't actually know the whole history behind the abuse and whatever, like they don't know entirely what's going on there, but those are that's kind of the gist of it. They say this is like literally one of the most haunted houses in the United States, and being in Massachusetts, like the second most haunted house. I'm not entirely sure what the most haunted house in Massachusetts is, but I would probably think the Lizzie Borden house. That would be my guess, but
Yeah, that one's pretty notorious.
yeah, yeah. Oh God, I've heard some craziness about there. I'm up in the air about whether or not I want to go there.
I
I'm
don't.
honestly,
Yeah, I'm not really into doing this stuff. Like when you say you have, like weird dreams and that sort of thing, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I want to be going around that energy. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
but that's
intrigued
me
by
though.
this,
That's
but
that's there's people who live on this earth who don't even believe in ghosts or like haven't even seen them. Yeah, like this is my experience is like my experience. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. And I've been places that like nothing has happened.
true.
You know, it's I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, but if you're not comfortable with it, like that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not really into it. I don't know.
I think you have to. I also like in general, since we've been doing this channel and this podcast, I definitely find like the dipping your toes into this content matter or like the subject matter is definitely difficult in general. By itself, just talking about cold cases or death all the time and like paranormal shit and like in general, that is difficult. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like we've taken breaks from things we really want to cover because it's just difficult to talk about. So like I've learned that like there are times when I need to take a break just from like I can't really watch too much true crime. Like I used to watch Forensic Files, and when I first like learned about Netflix, I started watching Forensic Files. I was like, oh, this is interesting, and then I'm like, oh my God, I need to take a fucking break.
Yeah,
I yeah,
I
like
think true crime and like anything paranormal, hauntings, anything of that nature are very different from me. Like I find it, you know, not to discredit anything, but to hear about a haunted house that's been had all these experiences over so many decades or whatever, like it's like an ongoing thing. But when you have true crime, it's like people are there's so much more to it. It's very concrete. Like a body was found decapitated in the woods. Like this happened to somebody. They went through this
oh,
event
right,
that
right.
led them to be violently murdered. Their spouse is grieving. Their parents are grieving. Their siblings are grieving. Their friends are like
Oh, right, right.
it's just a different thing.
It's
I
concrete.
and and one of the things for me too is like when we do the typical podcast, we're pretty lighthearted, and I think that's just sort of our vibe, and it's fun to kind of jump around with these like crazy different history facts and everything, and then go to the joking about things, and I feel comfortable doing that. But like if we're talking about again murder victims or grieving families and friends, I don't want to make jokes, and I'm too off the cuff to be like end up saying
Right,
something
right.
rude, and then you know
Like,
I
oh
don't know.
shit, I didn't mean it like that. Damn it.
And it's just uh, yeah, yeah. But I
No,
hear you. I hear you.
yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to even when you look at just some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. I didn't realize jumping into this that this was even the house was this that that serious.
Fucking crazy. Yeah, I didn't either. Like I said, when I went up to it, I was just like, because you always hear about haunted houses. What does that really mean? Like, is this just like a hyped up thing? Is this a marketing thing? Is this real? Is it something that people always say but no one believes? Like, what's the deal? Because like, isn't every house haunted? Like I was thinking about this earlier as I was driving around. Like, isn't every house haunted then? Like, because I always have this fear that I'm going to go to a house and move into it and it's going to be haunted. Um, but I feel like every place holds energy. But like, what?
Yeah, if people have unless you built the house yourself and everything, like if
Oh,
somebody had
even
lived there.
then though.
Yeah, if somebody had probably lived there at some point. Like where do they go? Like obviously,
Yeah, like
these are tough questions to answer. Like we don't have any concrete, proof of what happens, So
right.
it's but there's enough evidence to say that people stick around and like they hang out in these areas where like uh,
Right.
maybe like violent or notorious crimes or like bad things happen, but maybe just also like mundane things, and they happen to die in the bed there after living in the house for so many years, and their spirit just kind of stayed there, and it just kind of they
Spirit.
and where from their perspective they're just going about their day doing their thing, and you know
Right. Yeah,
they're still alive.
they're
But
just
there
making
was
coffee every fucking day for the rest of eternity.
oh my god, I mean it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be.
I could think of a lot worse fates than that. Even. So,
Uh,
but it's
that's true.
funny. No, what was I going to say? Um, there was a ghost movie that was very. It was a little different. I think it was called The Ghost That Lives in the House, and the intro was like something along the lines of houses are never owned. They're just once somebody has died in a house, their is the owner of the house, and blah blah blah. And it's just very like subtle about like this. I want to say there was different generations. I don't remember 100% the movie, so if I get something wrong, like I'm whatever, it's not 100%. But it's like different generations living in the house, and somebody had died there before, and like they have these like veiled experiences, like crossing paths with what's in the house, and it's not scary, but it's very subtle, and it's just like, oh,
Mm,
that's probably what that's like, it's probably what an actual experience would be like. It's not like
yes.
gore and special effects and crazy fucking thing
No, you're
walking backwards.
yes. Yes. No,
I
you're
think
right.
if you want to check out like a ghost movie that's like kind of captive, a little bit captivating and interesting, and like not super scary, you know, like that might be
Yeah.
up your alley. I believe it's a Netflix movie, which
What'd you say? The ghost lives here, or ghost lives in this house, or what?
I am the ghost that lives in the house, I believe.
In the,
And like typically, no offense, Netflix, but your movies tend to suck. But that one was pretty good.
listen, every so often you'll be like, oh shoot. Yeah, so that's the thing with hauntings is like it is subtle. We talked about this in the Benjamin F house because it is subtle. I think sometimes in the case of like my house, there's like the doorknob incident and the blinds in the bathroom, like those are kind of big things. We had something the other day, my husband told me about it. Things fell, that's what it was, and I don't remember what they were, but something fell off. We have a shelf in the kitchen over our washer and dryer. He said something fell off of there for no reason. And then in the living room, like right after that, something fell off of the TV stand in the living room. And he's like, I couldn't tell what it was. I just heard it fall and like whatever. I'm like, huh, no shit. He's like, we had some activity at the house today because I wasn't there. So that's like always our thing. I'll be like, oh, this happened at the house today. Like at this point, like I don't have the time. to get all bent out of shape about it. Like I can't be afraid of it. I can't like it's a little scary sometimes, but generally it's just like, all right, well, I don't have time for this. But the thing is that it is subtle. It's not
Hmm.
crazy. I mean, yeah, some of the moving stuff, like I just mentioned, is a little crazy because that's like, whoa, you know. But it is very subtle. It's like, where the hell are my keys? I know I put them here. That's a thing that happens all the time. Things getting misplaced and moved around.
Mm.
That happens a lot. So like, and that was a thing that they talk about in the bones in the basement is they would put such and such wherever and be, like turn around and turn back to get it and it's gone. And they're like, I know it was here. What the hell? And then they find it either, very quickly or like months later in a place that doesn't make any damn sense. Like, wait a minute, how did this get here? It's like shit like that. Like it's not necessarily like this Hollywood crap. And that's why I hate Hollywood because they like blow everything out of proportion and like real life is so much different. Real life is dramatic too, but it's different. So hauntings, I feel, are like, I don't know. It
Yeah, it's
when you,
something. It's just a different thing. No, I gotcha. I gotcha.
yeah, and I think it affects you, like I've said on, and this is maybe what I'm trying to say is that it affects you on different levels, like because we have our consciousness, and we have what we're doing right now in like this level of right now, but then there's also like our dreams and our inner thoughts and you know our fucking the energy around our body, our internal, like we have all these different layers as human beings. And I believe the world has different layers too of different kinds of energy, right? Like things we can see, things we can't see, whatever. And I feel like these experiences, that's why you get like, the hair raises on your arm or you sense things in the pit of your stomach before they happen, like that kind of shit,
Hmm.
like all that kind of shit. And I think that's where like
Yeah,
we can.
because I had an experience in this house, and I had something just went up before I heard it. Like something changed. It's almost like um sort of like you said there was no sound when you guys went to Dudleytown or something like this. It's very
Oh
like,
yeah, the sound was different.
but like it was just like regular, and then I almost felt like some presence either entered or some sound was just sucked out of the room, and I noticed that before I actually heard or experienced anything. Right?
Right.
It was this, just this weird feeling, and this happened. I had another experience when I lived, when I was working at this other place, and I was just doing some work. I was carrying some materials like into the back of the building, and I had that same sensation, and then um, I turned around, or I just had to look because I was carrying a long piece of like pipe or something, right? Like
Right.
16 or 20 feet. So I just looked behind me to make sure because I was going down some stairs. I wanted to make sure I didn't hit the corner as I turned, and I saw this black figure just run behind me,
Ah,
and that one didn't feel good. That felt like it
right.
didn't want me there. And I was like, okay, we're done for the day.
Like, you're just gonna suddenly I have to go.
Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure that was like the last thing I had to do for the day anyway. So,
Mm.
you know,
That's so yeah, and so yeah, different. I think there's different ways of. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's um like in my house. Sometimes I'll see things. Sometimes I hear things. It's actually I see things less than I hear things,
hmm,
or like I see like actual like the doors shutting, like the
yeah,
bathroom door shutting. By the way, if you want to hear all about my haunted house, we talk about it in the first episode of the podcast. Moving right along.
beautiful. We also have a video about it on the channel, so you can check
Yeah,
that
we
out.
do. Yeah, that video. It's an interesting story. Like it's like I said, I feel like I don't know, just to corroborate that it is subtle, but
Hmm.
it's huge. It's subtle but huge.
Right. I get that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so like recently I've been seeing in my room, which I don't often nothing much happens in my room actually. Nothing much
But
happens in
that's the bedroom, and nothing ever happens in there.
there.
What a
Exactly.
crime!
You've got 2 Ghostbuster quotes in this episode. That's
You
great.
don't act like a scientist. You're more like a game show host.
Oh my
It's so
god.
quotable.
It's so
They hate this.
the piano keys. They hate this.
Anyways, I think that's all we got. That's all we got. Thanks for
Uh yeah. Yeah. So the SK Pierce Haunted Mansion. Yeah,
don't fucking go there, guy, kid.